catch me if I fall. I'm falling fast, sitting here praying that this night's gonna last. You got it all on tap, I'm loving your vibe, always have your back. We like all the same tracks, listen all night in the sheets all black. Said I'm falling fast.
Hi, welcome to Travel to Some Places. So just to give you some context, I've been to 7 Balkan countries: Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Albania, North Macedonia, Montenegro, Kosovo, and Romania. And so I'm going to take you through the type of cost that you can expect if and when you visit the Balkans. And so I wasn't looking for a luxury experience, and I wasn't looking for a totally budget experience. I was looking for something on the middle ground where I can experience a bit of everything, both restaurants, street food, enjoy activities, but still stay within a daily budget. So in this video, you're going to find out about what the price ranges are for food, accommodations, transportation, and activities. So what you can expect when you visit the Balkans. So if that sounds interesting to you, then let's get into it. So let's start off with the big picture, a daily cost. And remember, these are averages, higher, a little bit lower, but accommodations $40 to $60, food $15 to $30, transportation $0 to $20, and then activities $15 to $30. But like I said, there are exceptions. For example, if I'm eating out at a really nice restaurant, it could have been higher than 30, could be 70, 80. If I have to take a train or a bus somewhere at a long distance, it could be 80. If I'm going to some unique activity, it could be 80 to 100. But this is average. I would say the average for 80% of the time. The higher or extremely lower cost would be 20% of the time. But this is the average picture for average days. So on average, around $80, including accommodation. That is really good. If you compare that to a city in Western Europe, you're looking at 150 plus. And that would be, very modest accommodations and modest of doing everything else per day. So half the cost, and really I enjoyed my trips as much as I did in Western Europe. Okay, so now let's get into breaking everything down category by category. So let's start off with food and drinks. So as with a lot of travel, food is where you're going to be spending a lot of money outside of accommodation. And the truth of the matter is, wherever you go, there's a lot of choices, a lot of really affordable choices. It's the same with the Balkans. Let me show you what I mean. If you want to go to, let's say, a sit-down restaurant, an average $30 or so, but then it's also possible to spend $100, because it's possible to spend that in any city that you go. But on average in the Balkans, I would say nice restaurant, average maybe $30. It could be even less than that. And then of course there's street food style. You can literally eat for a whole day, having sort of street food, and I'm putting that in air quotes. You can't see it, but that's what I'm doing, because street food is basically just sort of something you grab and go, or it could be a little spot where there's some seating, but these sort of more handheld kind of foods, $10 or less for a whole day. Let's do this for an example. Here's the day of eating in Belgrade, and for the whole day it was around $30. Great big breakfast, and then a nice lunch. Atmosphere, and a nice dinner. So you can see it's not a lot of different dishes, but really nice dishes at nice restaurants and eating local authentic food. And then on the flip side, you can see here eating street kind of food, you know, hefty big portions, but kind of the thing you're gonna grab and go. And you could do this, you know, $10-20 a day. And of course there's nicer places like this where the bill was on the higher end, above $50, but of course the dishes were fancier, unique ingredients and such. And then there's pizza. Wherever you get pizza, you can get it for a few bucks. Of course, if you're getting a whole pizza, a little bit more, but just very reasonable. And then if we're getting into coffee, I would say Balkans is really good for coffee, whether you're getting sort of like the little Turkish style, I'm calling it Turkish style, but it can be Bosnian style or Serbian style, the little cups, or regular style, it's $2 to $4. Of course, if you go to a more of a modern cafe with all the different pumps of flavor and sugar and caramel and whipped cream, it's going to go to the higher end. But if you're looking at a coffee spot where locals go, average a few dollars. And then there's burek. This is everywhere. You can have it for breakfast, you can have it for a snack, you can have it at lunchtime, also a few dollars. Okay, so transportation. I have to say I love walking. I walk everywhere. I think it's a great way to see everything. You stumble upon stuff you wouldn't see otherwise if you were on some sort of vehicle, a bus, a taxi, etc. So oftentimes I spend $0 a day on transportation. But if you were to take public transportation, it's a few dollars. And there's lots of public transportation, buses and trams and trains. Less so intercity trains, although there are trains from city to city. So be careful about the type of taxi you're taking. Make sure it's clearly marked with a number and name of a taxi company. When you get inside, make sure there's a meter and such, because there are private people that can operate as taxi drivers. They will say they're taxi drivers. Sometimes you can get those little, it'll say taxi somewhere on the car, but they're not in fact a licensed driver. So just make sure about that, because I had a couple of experiences where I should have been more careful. One time I was in Romania and I got into a taxi and it took so long to get to where I was going, but I didn't know. I had never been there before. So afterwards, once he dropped me off, I realized that where I had been and where I was going was literally, I could have walked, and he drove me around a whole mountain, obviously to make money. But like, I'm sure they had some sort of minimum. Even I would have paid the minimum, but that wasn't very nice to do that. But then also in the same country, I had a driver go above and beyond and help me get into an event. A place that I was trying to get into and argue with a security guard to help me get in. So it just depends on the person. Just you should be careful about making sure that you're getting into an actual taxi that's marked and with a meter and that sort of thing. Always ask if they take cash or credit card before you get in, or also driving you to an ATM, and then you're going to pay the high costs of the ATM fees, €5 and up. So that can add up. Okay, if you are booking inter-bus or inter-train, I have found that sometimes with trains, if you go directly to the local regional website and book from there, it's way cheaper than if you go to, sort of aggregators where you go on there and they sell tickets to everywhere. They put a markup on it and the cost is more expensive than if you had gone directly to the city or country that operates that particular train. With buses, you should check both individual bus lines and also the aggregators, because sometimes when you go on the aggregators, you see all these different prices from the same location to another pricing varies on time, but sometimes you might not even know that there is this particular carrier, and sometimes you can get a discount that way just on their sites in terms of buses. This is what I've experienced. I found trains more often than not were cheaper when I went directly to the country or city site, but buses I've booked through the aggregators and it was comparable. Okay, so let's get into activities. First off, there's a ton of things to do for free. You know, walking around, just quaint streets, visiting natural wonders like the waterfall like this Miace, or visiting fortresses like this in Belgrade, hiking in nature, beach days, all of this is free. Visiting churches, mosques. Beautiful way to just immerse yourself and get culture and history, and it's all free. And then if you want to visit other places, like let's say a museum, pricing is very reasonable, maybe $10 or so. Day tours can get a bit more expensive. It's cheaper often to just rent a car and drive yourself to the various locations, but still reasonable if you're comparing it to Western Europe. And then, for example, like the Nikola Tesla Museum, $10, and yeah, very affordable. The various activities you're going to participate in, affordable or even free sometimes. So when it comes to accommodations, there's lots of choices. One of my favorites is Airbnbs, because especially if you're traveling for a long period of time, you know, you want to be able to stay somewhere maybe where you can cook something once in a while, not just have a little more comfort of home. So let's look at some different places. So let's go to Tirana, Albania, and let's see the cost there. So you can see here quite affordable, $36 a night, $39, $34, quite reasonable, $43. You can even go to the higher end, $62. Let's see what $62 gets you. Really nice apartment. Okay, so let's check out, let's try another city. Let's try Belgrade. So also quite reasonable, $59, $44. You can go the higher end, $77. Let's see what $44 gets you. Looks quite nice. Although not a lot of detail here, but that looks like decent. Okay, let's try Banja Luka in Bosnia. So even a bit less expensive because the city is sort of outside of Sarajevo. Sarajevo is a bit more expensive, but this is Banja Luka, which is north of Sarajevo. So we have 31, 35, 49, 38. So let's see what something that's 31 looks like. That's nice. Always look at the bathroom, see if you like what their bathroom setup is, because that's important. Okay, so let's check out hotels. If I'm staying at like a smaller hotel, I still use, like a boutique hotel, I still use Airbnb because you can find them there as well. But let's look at other hotels for your information. And I'll use the same dates, which were February 18th to 19th. Okay, so let's see the pricing that we get. So similar. So we've got this place, $55 Airbnb for 26. Interesting. 58. Don't have any so far, not any of the brand name, I guess, hotels. So let's see some brands. Well, here we're getting a little bit more expensive, 87. But let's see if there's like a Hilton or Holiday Hotel. This one looks very nice. Tirana Square is right in the center. Wow, 27. I guess that's because it's February. I'm going to try to see if I can find... Okay, so let's try like Marriott and Hilton. So yeah, if you're staying at a Marriott or a Hilton, it's going to be more expensive, 187.93. But if you stay in a local hotel, then less expensive. Get back to booking now. We checked Tirana, so let's check Belgrade. Okay, so if you're staying at the waterfront, it's a little bit more expensive, 157.48. Okay, not too bad though, 47, still good. But if you're gonna stay at a branded, a familiar one, so let's do Radisson, Crown, and Hilton. So Crown, 196. Hey, look at that, where'd it go? So Radisson, Crown. So Radisson, 168. Let's do, I don't know why it's doing that, but Crown and Hilton. Darn it. Hilton, Mercure. So yeah, 168, 196, 208. So yes, definitely a lot more expensive than staying in an Airbnb or a hostel. But if you go with a local brand, then it's less expensive. Let's check out Banja Luka. So here, a lot. Olympus Apartments, Hotel Scepter. This seemed to be a popular one when I was there. Caesar. So, 80, 70, 80. More expensive definitely than Airbnb. Marriott Courtyard. Let's take a look at this courtyard. It looks very nice. Nice rooms, it looks like. Yeah, so I mean, you're paying for the service and for the amenities, but a lot more. So there we go. Okay. Okay, so a third option is hostels. I never know how to say that properly. Hostels. Okay. Hostel Tirana. So hostel in Tirana for the same date, 18th to 19th, gets one. Let's go. So, the dollar is, that's in euro, so let's just switch that. I gotta be careful about that. Okay, so let's see, hostel prices. So dorms, $15, and then privates, $34. So, that's not a huge difference from just getting an Airbnb. Oh, well, the dorm's different. So you can get a dorm for $15. So yes, okay, hostels a lot less expensive. Okay, that was in Tirana. Let's check out in Belgrade. Okay, so a little bit more expensive than Tirana, but no, actually the dorms are less expensive. Nomad, so it's $11 versus 28 for a private, 13 for a dorm versus 64 for a private. In case you've never used a dorm, so basically you're sharing the space. Generally, it's bunk beds, and there could be, you know, male or female only or mixed dorms. Mixed dorms are usually cheaper than female only dorms, and larger dorms are cheaper than smaller ones. Like, for example, if there's one that's four people to a dorm versus one that's like 16 people to a dorm. But look at, you see the prices. So in terms of privates, you know, it's not that much more affordable than a room in a hotel or an Airbnb, but if you get a dorm, it's more affordable. Okay, I'm not sure about Banja Luka. Let's see. I don't know if they have a lot of hostels. No, so Banja Luka doesn't, but we'll check Sarajevo. Okay, so they don't have privates at all, and then dorms are 13, 15, 17, so generally around the same. This one a little bit more expensive, just means that they have more amenities. Yeah. Alright, there you go. So you know now if you're gonna pay, if you want to travel and your budget for accommodations is $15, here you go. You can stay at a dorm. Thank you for watching, and I hope you liked this video. Tell me, have you been to the Balkans? Are you from the Balkans? Is there somewhere you want to go within the Balkans? Leave a comment in the comment below. And if you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe. And thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye.